In this video, we're going over an element of the Bleach world which I've always wanted to cover in my videos, but with the recent release of the latest one-shot chapter, there is all the more reason to make a video covering this topic. Yes, of course, I'm talking about hell within the Bleach universe. This is a special realm separate from Hueco Mundo and the Soul Society. Wicked individuals who have committed horrible acts while being alive, whether if they are Arancars, Hollows, humans, or even Quincy, are sent to this underground realm. So in this video, I'm going to be going over everything that we know about hell, as well as this theory which suggests that the Soul Society was the real hell, and the hell that we have seen up until now may have actually been heaven. So without further delay, let's get into the topic of the video. So if you were around for my last video discovering some of the topics that arise within the one-shot chapter, then you'll know from that last video about hell butterflies that I've wanted to make a video about the topic of hell for a while. Hell first appears within the anime in episode 5 and debuts within the manga in chapter 12. We know that evil individuals who have committed horrible acts while being alive are sent to this realm. Now the logic behind this realm is explained to us within chapter 12. When the gates of hell first appear, Rukia explains to Ichigo that she had told him that Zanpakuto cleansed the soul of all of its crimes. This is done so that it can enter into the Soul Society. But on special circumstances, after a Hollow is defeated by a Zanpakuto, not all of them make it to the Soul Society. This is because a Zanpakuto can only wash away the sins that a soul has committed as a Hollow. For those individuals who have committed horrible acts while being alive are sent to an alternative realm. The Shinigami of course hand them over to hell. This is the only way for them to cleanse themselves of their horrible acts that they have committed. We know that the human who had eventually become the Shrieker was a very evil individual. While alive, he was referred to as a serial killer, as he travelled around hunting and killing people. As far as we know, he had killed 8 individuals, and yet felt like a celebrity that he was being mentioned on TV. We know through chapter 11 that Yuichi Shibata and his mother were his final victims. He had stabbed Yuichi's mother several times while she had been protecting her son. We know that Yuichi had grabbed onto the shoelaces of his mother's murderer, and this had resulted in him losing his balance and falling off of the balcony of their apartment. Not too long after, we know that the Shrieker had transformed into a Hollow, but he had still held a grudge against Yuichi. Because of this, he had ripped the soul out of Yuichi's body and had placed it into a parakeet. He had wanted to play a game with the boy. He had told Yuichi that if he could survive for 3 months from his Hollow form, then he would bring his mother back to life. Of course, we know that this is a lie, and after those 3 months pass, the Shrieker didn't hold up his end of the deal. We also know from chapter 9 that the Shrieker had devoured 2 Shinigami who had tried to perform a Konso on the soul of Yuichi. Even after leaving his human form and becoming a Hollow, you can see just how much of a twisted individual the Shrieker was. And this is the caliber of people that are sent to hell. When the gates of hell first appear, you feel no remorse for the Shrieker. After knowing everything that he has done, you feel like he deserves going there. When Ichigo had defeated the Shrieker, he had slashed across its Hollow mask, and this had resulted in a beam of light appearing from the crack in the Hollow mask and shooting up into the air. So we know that the gates of hell appear from the energy or light which emits from the wound that is formed on the mask of a Hollow. If you look very closely at the appearance of the gates of hell, you can see that they are chained shut, and on either side of the doors there are 2 skeletal figures. The top of their skulls all the way down to their forehead is completely bandaged, and it appears that some charms or talismans are attached to these bandages. Now if you look very closely at the overall figure of these skeletons, then they appear to resemble a butterfly. Now this is strikingly similar to the hell butterflies that appeared throughout the one-shot chapter, and it further adds to this notion that hell butterflies originate from hell. Now when the gates of hell finally open within chapter 12, you can see that on the inside of the gates there are 2 thick ropes which prevent the gates of hell from being opened completely, and once again these thick ropes appear to have the same talismans and charms attached to them. We don't know anything about what is written on these charms, but hopefully we get to find this out in Kubo's upcoming hell arc that he is writing. Now the Shrieker is enveloped in light, and the body of the Hollow is completely pierced by a sword. We see that from the gates of hell emerges a demonic large creature. It appears to be holding the sword that had just impaled the Hollow. We see the left arm of this mysterious being, as its shoulder is covered in armor, and its skin appears to have these strange black markings which appear to resemble tribal tattoos. Then in the next panel we get a glimpse of the face of this mysterious creature as it stands behind these 2 thick black ropes. After the Shrieker is skewered like a kebab, he is dragged into hell. Now what you'll notice is this demonic being is laughing while the Hollow is being pulled into its domain. Then as quickly as the gates of hell appeared, they immediately shut, and the entire structure of the gates of hell crumbled crumble and crack and disappear into thin air. Now this, aside from the continuity of the Hellverse movie, is everything that we know about Hell. Now what I'm going to do is talk about the special Hellverse chapter that Kubo had created prior to the release of Hellverse. Now this is a complete 19-page chapter. Now I'm sure you know after watching my review of Bleach movie 4 that that movie is not canon to the continuity of Bleach, and it leaves this chapter that Kubo had created in a funny kind of place. So I'm not going to be treating it as complete canon, but we will have a look at it to try and see if we can piece together any information that we learn about Hell from it. The main reason why I want to look at this Hellverse special chapter is that Xyle Apollo appears within it heavily, and of course, as you all know, he makes a big appearance at the end of the Bleach one-shot chapter. So let's look into the first glimpse of Hell that Kubo had ever written into his story, through this chapter that not many people will know about. It begins with a very short poetic verse. They will not swing open. They will not fly open. The gates of hell will not open. This chapter is officially titled Imaginary Number 1, The Unforgivens. A sentence explains that downward they plummet. The screams of sinners do not echo in the underworld. We see that two individuals are screaming and plummet into the ground, as it is revealed that the two Espada, Xyle Apollo and Aranero, have just entered into hell. Now before continuing, I want to quickly mention that the start of this chapter states that the gates of hell will not be open. Now if you pay attention, when the Shrieker was taken into hell, the gates of hell were not completely opened. They did not fly open, nor did they swing open. They were held back from this happening by these two large ropes. Now what you'll notice from the Bleach one-shot chapter, when Xyle Apollo is impaled and dragged back into hell by Ukitake, those two ropes are not present. So we can appreciate that from the one-shot some change has occurred, and Xyle Apollo was correct that the balance has collapsed, and now the gates of hell can be opened from the other side. Continuing with the chapter, we see that the two Espada quickly get into an argument. As Aranero is about to attack him, Xyle Apollo stops him as they start to discuss their surrounding location. Aranero appears to be adamant on killing Xyle Apollo. We then get the appearance of one of the antagonists from the Bleach Hellverse movie, who explains to the two Espada that they have arrived within hell. Shuren comments on how the two of them have been speaking about killing each other. He reveals to them that they are already dead. After Xyle Apollo remembers that he was killed by Mayuri, he attacks Shuren for the reminder. He then asks him if there is a way to leave hell so that he can return to Huecomundo. But Shuren reveals to him that the only way to survive within hell is to listen to what he has to say. Then his three goons appear out of nowhere and attack the two Espada. Xyle Apollo then activates his Resurrection and unleashes a Gran Rey Cero, and in true fashion it appears that Xyle Apollo is interested in experimenting upon the individuals who reside within hell. The chapter quickly concludes as it appears that Shuren has defeated Xyle Apollo. He appears to be disappointed that the power of the two Espada is not sufficient to open the gates of hell. Instead, he sets his sights on Vaster Lord Ichigo, as he devises a plan to bring down Ichigo into hell so that he can somehow open up the gates of hell through using the abilities of his Vaster Lord form. Now looking at everything aside from the introduction of the movie 4 villains, this chapter is indeed correct when it comes to the appearance of Xyle Apollo within hell. This is confirmed by his appearance within the one-shot chapter. Now when we look at the surroundings of hell that Kubo depicts within this chapter, we can see that it just appears to be a barren wasteland. Not much is elaborated upon, and you can even say that it resembles Huecomundo. So let's now talk about the appearance of hell within the one-shot chapter. We can see that when an Arrancar is sent to hell, their appearance is altered. Their hollow hole appears to move to the outside of their body, and at the same time they gain new powers. As when Xyle Apollo was attacking Renji, he had fired these black chains in his direction. Of course, these were abilities that he didn't have previously. Aside from punishing sinners, another key aspect of hell is to contain the dense ratio of captains of the Gotei 13. Because of their incredible power, their Reiatsu is too dense to be absorbed by the Soul Society. So a Konso Reisei ceremony is conducted 12 years after the death of a captain. Unknown to the captains and lieutenants of the Soul Society, by conducting this ceremony they had been sending their former captains to the underworld. We learned that Head Captain Yamamoto, Captain Unohana and Captain Ukitake have all been sent to hell. We are not sure as to what changes the captains completely undergo when they enter into hell, but we do know that their Zanpakuto become one of the swords that impales the sinners and drags them back into hell. This can lead us to believe that the captains who are sent into hell act as wardens or gatekeepers of hell. Another very important point that is mentioned within the one-shot chapter is that just as a balance of souls exists between the human world and the Soul Society, hell also has a balance of Reiatsu that must be maintained. Xyle Apollo reveals to Ichigo at the end of the one-shot that the immense Reiatsu of both Yhwach and Aizen had been keeping the mouth of hell shut. We can assume that Xyle Apollo is referring to this portal that both he had emerged from and Kazui had created at the start of this this chapter. With the disappearance of these two antagonistic forces, it appears that the dwellers of hell can now open up these portals and enter into the real world. So with the disappearance of Yuhobak and Aizen, and the three powerful captains being sent into hell, it resulted in an imbalance occurring, thus explaining how Xylopodo was able to appear within the human world out of the maw of hell. This imbalance is signified by the appearance of this will-o-wisp or phosphoplasm from hell, which are these black blobs that appear within the Soul Society and the human world. When it appears within the Soul Society and the captains interact with this phosphoplasm, it appears to be harmless when it is touched, but when one of the black blobs lands on Chunsui Zanbakudo, it appears to be burning into his Zanbakudo like acid. There are a lot of questions that arise here. So the individuals who reside within hell can now appear within the human world, but this doesn't stop the gates of hell from appearing and dragging them right back into hell. Will this always be the case, or eventually will the denizens of hell be able to freely move without ever being sent back into hell? And what do the hell butterflies have to do with any of this? We won't really know the answers to these questions until Kubo drafts more chapters for this arc. Another point that I want to touch upon is that Xylopodo was accompanied by creatures called beasts of hell. Now they appear to be large hollows which originate from hell, and that appearance differs from traditional hollows, as instead of having typical hollow holes within their chest, their rings are protruding on the outside of their body. And in addition to this, they have chain-like markings across their body. And again, we don't know much about them aside from the fact that they are able to sneak up upon even lieutenants of the Soul Society, as that large hollow was stood behind Ichigo Renji and the other lieutenants. None of them could sense the presence of these hell beasts, and it was thanks to Ichigo who had seen this large hell beast and had alerted Renji and the others to it. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have known. And it adds to this idea that these hell beasts probably don't possess spiritual pressure, typically found from Arrancar's hollows, humans, or even Shinigami. Now, moving on from this, I'm not going to bore you with surface level discussion and theories like what old villains are we going to see again. Instead, I'm going to be talking about the implications of this one-shot chapter on the world building elements of Bleach. From Bleach Can't Be Your Own World, it is revealed that hell even predates the separation of the Soul Society, the World of the Living, and Hueco Mundo. From the Can't Be Your Own World light novels, we know that the Soul King had separated one realm into these three separate forms. It is also revealed that the human world was created to serve as a lid to seal off hell from the other worlds. So from this, we know that hell predates the Soul King, and it has remained in its original form, and not being altered by its parallel world being divided into three different worlds. Now, I'm going to talk about a theory that was posted by a Japanese Twitter user who had come up with this speculation after reading the one-shot special chapter. Now, this Twitter user with the handle SaigoZudon begins his Bleach discussion by discussing the holes that appear protruding from the hell beast's bodies. The entire theory that he comes up with is that the hell that we currently see within the Bleach universe used to be heaven. This is because the circular holes that appear on the outside resemble the halos that angels typically have, while the current afterlife that is denoted with positive connotation that we can assume to be heaven is the Soul Society, and this is where the Grim Reapers or the Shinigami reside. And it's an excellent parallel and juxtaposition that this Twitter user brings up, and it's stuff that even I wouldn't have come up with. He goes on to question why is it that when captains die they are sent into hell, and he uses this question to further theorize that hell used to be heaven, as in the past when captains used to die they may have been promoted and sent to heaven, but now this reversal has occurred where heaven has become hell. Is Kazui somehow aware of this reversal that has occurred, and is this the reason behind why he is sending human spirits to hell instead of the Soul Society? Does Kazui know the true identity of hell, which is heaven? Tate Kubo appears to like this idea of the original sin, and the original sin is talked about within the Can't Be Your Own World light novels. It's described as an event that occurred which resulted in the formation of the Soul King. We know that Shinigami can wash away the sins of a hollow, but is it because they cannot erase the sins of their original sin, which was to use the Soul King as a fake god to rule over three different realms that they created? Does Kazui know this? Does he know that hell is actually heaven? And does this explain why there is so much poverty within the Rukongai district within the Soul Society? Is this because the Rukongai district is a remnant of the original hell prior to the creation of the Soul King? I mean, haven't you ever wondered why are there gods of death or Grim Reapers within heaven? Why is the Soul Society closely linked to these Grim Reapers? In the traditional sense, Shinigami are not considered to be good. Did the people who originally resided within heaven rebel against the idea of the Soul King? Were the people who resided within heaven previously Quincy, since a lot of the Quincy attire and abilities revolve around this holy or angelic pretense. You can even see that the Quincy have holy forms. Were they truly angelic deities in the past? Yhwach didn't agree with the Soul King. We know that Aizen didn't agree with the Soul King. And most of the Shinigami who reside within the Soul Society don't even know the truth about the Soul King. But yet all of the work that they do is to ensure the balance of the worlds, so that the Soul King can remain intact, and that the three realms of the human world, the Soul Society and Hueco can continually remain to coexist, along with the Soul King who had created these worlds. Now I'll link the original Twitter thread in the discussions, but this Twitter user's speculation had blown my mind, and it's things that nobody had come up with previously. It's really deep and confusing and goes into the lore of Bleach, but if this turns out to be true, then Kubo would have succeeded in trolling all of us. These theories of Quincy being angelic, and hell as we know it being the former heaven, really shed some light on the poverty within the Rukongai district. Now this Twitter user's discussion goes into further depth as he speaks about the original sin, and talks about the inversion that has been created by the creation of the Soul King. So I suggest reading that thread and even checking out the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels, where it heavily goes into the original sin of the Shinigami, and how the world used to be prior to the formation of the Soul King. I'll talk more about this theory when I cover the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels, as I've just received the final volume in the mail today. But overall, I want to know your thoughts on the realm of hell. These theories and speculations that I've mentioned at the end of this video, have you ever considered them in your own mind? Do you think that they are going too far, or do you see some truth to them? I'm really fascinated by this topic, and I can't wait to read all of your speculation within the comment section. So let me know your thoughts about the truth of hell, and the current state of the Soul Society, Quincy, Shinigami, and most importantly, the original sin and the Soul King. Thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, then please consider supporting my channel on Patreon. I have multiple tiers with rewards including access to an exclusive Discord server, video scripts, as well as being the first to know about unreleased upcoming videos. Thank you for your time, and whatever you choose to contribute I will appreciate, and it will mean a lot to me.